Hello, my name is Pusha. Welcome to WrestleBeards Worldwide. Enjoy the show. Boom.
WrestleBeards, we got all your wrestling gear. WrestleBeards, woo! Hairy man with dirty beards. WrestleBeards Worldwide.
And welcome to this week's WrestleBeard Worldwide podcast. We're on episode 6, which is quite exciting. Welcome, Luke. How's it going, mate?
All good, all good. Yeah, another week, 1 week out from the Royal Rumble. Starting to get exciting now.
Mate, is it ever? I've been watching SmackDown this morning. I know you're going to bring all that up soon, but I'm just starting to get those butterflies. I'm looking forward to this WrestleMania season starting.
Yep, me too. It's now it's getting some traction. People are entering themselves in because like about a week out, we only had like four guys in the Rumble. Now we've got 14. So it's starting to fill up.
WWE sometimes they can have a slow burner, or they can just start guns blazing. And I think with the Rumble, I don't know. I'm of two minds. Sometimes I like to not know of any of the entrants, so it's all a surprise, even current roster guys. And then sometimes you need to know who's going to be in it just to build up the suspense. So of course. It's going to be an interesting one.
It is. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, why don't you get us kick-started with the first segment? And as usual, I've just got to go off screen and grab something. It's the news.
Okay, yeah. So the weekly news in the world of professional wrestling, not just WWE, but professional wrestling. We will start with a WWE segment. Last Sunday, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H released a video announcing that WrestleMania will be held in Tampa, Florida, in the Raymond James Stadium, the same place that the Super Bowl is going to be taking place in just over 2 weeks' time. It was the stadium that they were meant to have WrestleMania in last year. Obviously, it will be no fans. There won't be fans there for it, but like the NFL have shown, we can have these big events held in these super stadiums around America, and things protocols are followed correctly, and it can be done safely. So I'm really looking forward to the spectacle of WrestleMania across 2 nights on April 10th and 11th, being in a stadium. Obviously, there's going to be no fans there. They're still going to be pumping in the generic fan noise, the booing for the heels and the cheering for the faces. But yeah, I think just doing it outside of the Performance Center or the Thunderdome is a really good step forward. What are your thoughts about it, Shrek?
Well, I didn't actually know it was no fans, so that's news for me, but interesting. It will be nice to have like an open air kind of event. I think that's the special thing about WrestleMania in general. Also, something different, having all of the Thunderdome characters around can be a bit off-putting and distracting at times for me. So to have something else happening will be quite nice. Who's to know how it will go? But I do like the 2-night format. I think it worked really well last year. I'm sure they'll still have some, cinematic matches lined up. I'm no doubt. I don't know how they'll put those into the show. But it's just exciting. WrestleMania is always good fun. Hopefully by then we'll be able to live stream something on the channel. Yeah,
we get up to 100, a big magical number of 100 subscribers. I agree. It's good that it's going to be open air. And the no fans. I may have misspoken there. It probably will actually be partial attendance of something like 6,000 fans or something. I know that down in that area, that's where AEW are, and they have a live audience, but it's like 20% capacity, I think. And I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have played in front of their home fans, but again, like 6,000 in a stadium, which those 6,000, they do create some noise. So that will be good for WrestleMania. The second bit of news is from AEW down in Jacksonville in Florida, and it's about Sting and his first match that is confirmed for the upcoming pay-per-view of AEW Revolution, where he's going to be teaming up with Darby Allin to take on the guys that are under Taz in AEW. Yeah, so I'm quite surprised. I'm quite surprised that, like, we spoke about it when he first went over to there and he was announced, and I said, well, he's going to have some matches, but I didn't think it would be this soon. I thought it would maybe be the summer that he has his first match, maybe at like the All or Nothing, Double or Nothing recurring pay-per-view that they have every August, I think. Yeah, I'm surprised that he's being thrown into it so quickly after obviously his WWE run where he got injured against Seth Rollins and then was confirmed to retire and not wrestle again. Obviously, he has been cleared by the AEW team, but yeah, I think 62 years old.
Wow.
I think it's a bit of a risk.
Well, who knows what he'll be able to do in the ring anyway. Like, I mean, this is actually a street fight as far as I'm to believe, the match itself. And I guess with Darby being a young and up-and-coming like star in the company, I mean, Sting will just be there for name value, but I'm sure that Darby will probably do most of the lion's share of the work. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really need to see Sting in a wrestling ring anymore. Like, I think there's no need for it, but I'd like to see him more in a commissioner style role or an enforcer role, even if he's just like this mysterious guy who hangs in the rafters and comes out and sticks up for people. But I don't really need to see him wrestling. I think, you know, like that, the days of Ric Flair in his last haul, like, I mean, it's kind of miserable to watch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same mindset with The Undertaker. I don't need to see him wrestle again.
Oh, no.
Like, his last few matches have been pretty bad. Maybe Goldberg as well, but we are going to see him wrestle again.
I didn't need to see Goldberg wrestle in his prime, you know, let alone the current climate. I didn't even think he was fantastic 20 years ago. So, yeah, not a big Goldberg fan.
No, not at all. And last one, from the Dave Meltzer podcast radio show with Brian Alvarez, mentioned that there's two potential opponents for Reigns at Mania, and obviously we can probably assume, just given how big Reigns is at the moment, that's probably going to be the main event, unless Ronda Rousey returns or something, and her and Charlotte Flair get into a match. But it'll be one of the night's main events, I think, either the Saturday main event or the Sunday main event. And the two potential opponents, one is confirmed and known to be Daniel Bryan, which we already assumed. There's talk that it's going to be his last run in the company before he sort of goes off into the sunset with Brie Bella. And the other one, unconfirmed, but is thought to be Nakamura, given how well it was received, how well he did in the gauntlet match. I don't think either are going to beat Reigns, unfortunately. I think what you said last week about Reigns keeping the title beyond Mania and maybe them setting up an angle against The Rock next year, I think that's probably what they'll do if they can do it. But I'm interested that they're putting it, the other potential one is Nakamura. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, Reigns is definitely hot property at the moment, so I do think they're going to invest a bit more into this run. And I think the key to a successful heel run as champion is it's got to not be boring. And this is anything but. Like, I think the title reign so far has been, you know, action-packed. There's been different cogs and wheels moving with the Usos' involvement and Kevin Owens and so forth. Yeah, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. As far as the Rumble, I did hear, like, you know, originally the initial echoes were Big E was a favorite, and then I saw an interview with him the other day where he said he even personally thinks that the guy to face Reigns at WrestleMania will be a part-timer. So, which I found quite interesting. Like, part-timer, the only ones that I know of, you know, that are somewhat in the mix are Goldberg, Undertaker, Triple H, and not much else. So I hope none of them are facing Reigns. Maybe they class Daniel Bryan as a part-timer because I hear he's moving to a modified contract, but I don't know. I would be happy for a Bryan Reigns match at WrestleMania. I think that would be quite cool. They've done it in the past. I think that would be something to see again. And Nakamura, although I think that would be cool. I mean, to have Nakamura have a double Rumble win when he's really kind of not doing anything that fantastic would be quite, shocking to me, considering guys like The Rock and so forth never even had more than one Rumble win. But to have Nakamura have multiple Rumble wins and then probably not even have a payoff with the title would just be quite shocking. Another guy, actually, we'll bring that up at the end of the show. How about we save that at the end? But a great opening segment. Some good news this week.
Some good news this week,
Yeah, we can get these off. I think we'll get into the Raw takeaways, and I'll lead away with those. Raw, a little bit of an improvement this week. It wasn't so fantastic, but some hot things happening and some interesting notes to take from Raw leading into the Royal Rumble. I'll start with the opening segment, which was I guess you would call it a monologue, backstage monologue with in a dark room, Randy Orton. And he's, it was very intense. He's wearing some kind of ski mask / knockoff Rey Mysterio mask. And he's backstage and he's brooding in the darkness. Because obviously last week on Raw, he had a fireball shot into his face by Alexa Bliss, which was quite shocking. So he's brooding and he's angry and he's talking about, like how he's someone to be admired in this company and respected, and how, this shouldn't be happening to someone of his caliber, and how he's going to win the Rumble. Like, I hope that doesn't happen, but he's pretty adamant he's going to win that Rumble. And I must say, the last 2 times he's been adamant and gone on about it, banging on about it, he won it. So I hope that doesn't happen. But he wants to thank the Fiend for lighting a fire. There's a lot of fire analogy into his belly, and it was really actually a powerful promo. I think sometimes Orton's kind of looked over as far as a talker, but he's quite a powerful talker. He is quite scary, and I thought it was a great way to start Raw, and the continuity of how it finished last week. And then opening again with him this week. Plus, Randy, I think that guy's going to be in the company for another 30 years. Like he's
ageless, isn't he?
Just when you think he's gone stale, he kind of reinvents himself. So I'm quite a big Randy Orton fan, actually, and I haven't always said that. So what did you think about the opening monologue?
I thought it was good. I thought, like, you're right, and I thought of the same of 2017 and whenever he won it in the 2000s and 2010s. When he said he's going to win it, he goes and wins it. Like, it's not too far out the realms of possibility that he could go and win it.
He's always he's got, how many titles has he got? Like 15 world titles?
15 world titles. Yeah, he's 15.
Like, he's creeping up there on John Cena's record, on Ric Flair's record. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more reigns under his belt before his career is done and dusted.
Well, you're right. Like, he seems ageless, and he always reinvents himself. The stuff that he did with the Wyatt family, with Bray Wyatt, obviously that terrible Mania match, but then he's kind of he goes into his original character, the Viper, but then he starts doing a legend killing again, and then he got another title run against Drew, and obviously won this year.
Looking up how old Randy Orton is, actually, I'm not sure. I just want to find out. Hang on a second.
He's got to be like early 40s, I would say. 42,
Randy
43.
Orton. Oh, it's loading so slowly. Here we go. Randy Orton. Oh, it'll come up soon. But I'm predicting he's got to be around 40 years old. Here he is.
Yeah, I think maybe 42, 43.
Well, he was born in 1980, so that would make him 40 years old, wouldn't it?
41. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
41. Wow.
Interesting. Well,
But yeah, like he's been going forever, and I think I'm interested to see what happens with this. Maybe he dons the mask. Maybe he's like, this could be a maybe aligns himself with the Fiend.
That could be interesting. Okay, well, moving on. The second big takeaway, I've sort of called it, it's so bad it's good. It was this week's dirt sheet where out of the blue, they, and we should have seen this coming, but they said on the night, it might have been leading up to it earlier in the week, they said, special guest on the Miz and Morrison's dirt sheet is Goldberg. I was like, that should be interesting. See what Goldberg's got to say, see how he bounces off of Miz and Morrison, because he's pretty straight-laced, and Miz and Morrison, they've got the chops. They like to take the piss out of their guests on that show. So I was all ready for it, and lo and behold, Goldberg's music plays, and it's all ready to start, and out comes Dwayne Gillberg, making his return to the company. I don't know, I think the last time was during Goldberg and Kevin Owens' feud, when he came out and Kevin Owens beat up Gillberg in some capacity. But Gillberg used to be quite a mainstay in the company. He was, I think, one of the longest lightweight, heavyweight champions in the company's history many moons ago, which then became the cruiserweight title. So he was in the mix, and he's always a joke character, but it was quite funny. So I do like Gillberg. And anyway, he comes out and he's doing his rah and poking his tongue out, and Miz and Morrison are sort of bickering over like Gillberg's involvement. And then Drew McIntyre's music plays. So I'm like, what? He's here? That's a quick recovery from COVID. And no, it's not Drew McIntyre. It's some fat, chubby kind of reject guy. In fact, I got the guy's name. His name's David Krumholtz, who's kind of like one of those actors who plays minor roles in movies. He's been in the Santa Claus and in some of the Harold and Kumar movies. And he comes out with this little tiny sword and sticks it in Drew McIntyre's sword hole and comes out with the worst Scottish accent. And it's quite embarrassing to watch. And but at the same time, what were they trying to achieve? This was, this was what they were trying to do. Take the piss out of how kind of bad already the feud is, if you can call it a feud. Miz and Morrison are bickering over the lameness of the segment themselves, which is quite funny. And it ends with, I think, the thing that they wanted to get out of it, that the Miz said, well, on at the Royal Rumble, Goldberg's not going to win, and Drew McIntyre's not going to win. I'm going to win because I'm cashing in my Money in the Bank briefcase. And I mean, he didn't officially cash it in then, like some have in the past. I think Strowman did it. I think Cena did it, both unsuccessfully. But what do you think? Do you think that, how do you think the segment went? And do you think Miz is going to cash it in?
Well, firstly, I'll say about Dwayne Gillberg, friend of the show, James Ellsworth, actually wrestled in his retirement match. So I was very surprised to see Dwayne Gill come out. Obviously not wrestling, but yeah, it was good to see him. It always gets me the way he's sticking out his tongue and crossing his eyes, and then you've got one of the camera guys putting just spraying him with a fire extinguisher. I think it's brilliant. It always makes me laugh. Never fails. I didn't know who the Drew McIntyre guy was, but it was quite funny. And you're right, the Miz and Morrison bickering back and forth about how terrible the segment was that they've set up was pretty funny as well. I really like. I'm not a big John Morrison fan. I prefer his wrestling, but the Miz I think is just brilliant. I've again, like you said about Randy Orton, not always said that I'm a fan of the Miz, but I'm a big fan of the Miz and everything that he does. And at the end, he switched it up and add a bit of an intensity, which he can do. And saying he was cashing in at the Rumble. When was the last time we had the prediction? Was it Brock Lesnar who said he was gonna cash in on this date, and
Yeah, that might have been right.
And he did. So yeah, it's interesting that they've gone that route with the Miz. I kind of expected. I'd heard sort of rumors, and I thought it sounded about right. We've not yet had someone who's not cashed in over the full year, and then they've lost their opportunity. And I thought that was what the Miz would end up doing. He would end up like trying to, and he just never got around. Like was never able to fully do it. And then Money in the Bank comes around again, and he loses it. Yeah, I think he will cash in. I think he will be unsuccessful. But I think he deserves a title run. Like the stuff he's been doing over the past couple of years.
Well, I agree. And I think that if he does get said title run, if it does come from this Money in the Bank opportunity, I also don't think it will. But if it did, it would set up a nice little feud with him and Morrison, perhaps, over the title. And I think Morrison is a main event player who hasn't really been given that opportunity, both stints in the company. So, both of those guys could benefit from Miz winning that title.
Yeah, they really could.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Okay, so the third point I'll take away from Raw this week was Alexa Bliss's involvement, which again is building into the Randy Orton / Fiend storyline. But Alexa has sort of gone off on her own a bit and started going into business for herself and building up her character, which is quite cool. So it's stated that she's going to have a match later in the evening with Asuka, the current women's champion. But before they get into a tussle, they're going to have a live segment in the ring, Alexa's Playground, which is obviously just a play on the Funhouse, the Firefly Funhouse. But Alexa, is the host, and she's got some playground equipment set up, swing set, merry-go-round, and rocking horse or so forth in the ring. So Alexa spends much of the segment getting quite angry, actually, because Asuka's, playing around, playing the goof with her usual antics. And then she starts talking to an invisible person on the swing next to her, which obviously is alluding it's the Fiend. And the Fiend, although he's burned to a crisp, he's not dead. The aura lives on, which is quite cool, actually. Asuka says, "Is that the Fiend?" And Asuka is then quickly shot down by Alexa, telling her, don't speak that name on your lips, kind of jazz. And it's quite spooky. The segment ends with the rocking horse rocking by itself, and Asuka getting quite bemused by that and spooked out by that and getting out, which, I like the segment in some ways, but in other ways I thought, why do they need to put Asuka in this spot? Because she is the women's champion and the tag champion at the moment. Do they need to be making her look so weak? So anyway, we lead on to the match, which is the main event of Raw. Alexa Bliss versus Asuka. They get into a bit of a tussle at the start, and then the lights and the doom, doom, doom goes on, and it comes back on, and it's now kind of a darker mode of the set with Alexa Bliss has completely changed into a black and white costume with black makeup and black lipstick and black pigtails, and it's, although we obviously know how they did it, it was quite well managed, I thought, and a great kind of aesthetic to show the difference between her face funhouse character, playground character, to the spooky, tormented character. And then in this mode, I mean, there's nothing she can do wrong. Like, Asuka puts all the moves, strikes onto her, and she just no-sells everything. She's like a super beast, which is quite, interesting in one way, but also, why are you doing this to the champion again? And it ends with a Sister Abigail and a 1-2-3, and Alexa wins the main event. And then the lights go out, come back on. She's back in her colourful, smiley playground, makeup and so forth. And she's smiling and waving goodbye until she then opens her mouth, and her voice is the Fiend's voice. And I believe she says, "Let me in," and it fades black. It was interesting. It obviously is building up as the major feud of Raw, which, I mean, I guess that has to be, considering your other feud is your champion against Goldberg. But I don't know. What do you think about it, Luke?
I liked it. I thought it was really good. Like the playground bit was good, and Asuka going from sort of having fun to being uncertain of where she was. Obviously, Alexa Bliss is good in herself anyway, but this addition to her character of now she's the Fiend's kind of side piece counterpart is good, and the way that the way that they'd booked her to no sell Asuka, no one has done that to Asuka in the company, like NXT or the main roster. No one's done that. I think they're setting up a title run for Alexa Bliss, and yeah, like an unstoppable kind of title run. I really hope that they do give it to her after giving her this kind of character that no sells everything and then wins quite handedly. I hope that they don't end up having a match at the Royal Rumble where Asuka then beats her, because what's the point in this whole segment, this whole match on Monday? But yeah, no, I thought it was good, and you're right. Like, we obviously know how it was done. It was obviously a pre-record of when it comes back and she's in a different attire, but the way they did it, and they've done it a few times recently like that, with the Alexa Bliss segments, yeah, really, really well done.
It could be interesting if, like, the Fiend returns, or when the Fiend returns, if like they have some mixed tag team matches, like Miz and Alexa versus male and female team. I don't know who that male and female team could be, but you know, there's an opening for that. I have heard also echoes that, you know, the Fiend is dead for now, but when Bray Wyatt returns, he's going to come back with a different character in the vein of Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack. Perhaps there's a third face of Wyatt. So, I mean, who knows what that'll be or if it will happen, but that could be interesting too.
Maybe he's coming back as Sister Abigail. That was really good.
Maybe he's coming back as Husky Harris. Let's hope. But anyway, Raw, it was kind of a meh. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's the greatest Raw I've ever watched. However, you know, it's on the, you know, the up and up since that Legends Night, which we'll always look on as the lowest day. Okay, well, how about we now get into the SmackDown takeaways, which were on.
So
today, Luke.
That was this morning, yeah. So again, wasn't at the heights of how SmackDown has been lately, but opened up with what I thought was a really great segment with Roman Reigns coming down to the ring, Paul Heyman, and speaking about how Adam Pearce feigning injury and how terrible that is, and just going on and on and on and on and on. Kind of, I think they're working into the fact that he's lost his control, like this, because Kevin Owens is now back, and he's lost his control of. He was fully in control last week, and I think they're kind of giving him this unhinged character a little bit.
Is he just sitting on the side of the table? Is he not at the head of the table anymore?
But like just the way he was going on and on and on and on and on, to the point where Adam Pearce came out and was like, this is just enough. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so Reigns then lays into him a little bit. Paul Heyman's there laughing like a schoolgirl, like and Adam Pearce says, well, I don't mind being bullied. I don't mind being intimidated by Roman Reigns, but I'm not going to take it from you. To which then Reigns tells Paul Heyman to give him some. Paul Heyman said, "I'm from New York," and he said something about lawyers and how he's not a lawyer, but his synagogue is full of them or something, which I didn't understand.
It's a Jew.
And then, okay, yeah. And then said to him, "How about Paul Heyman versus Adam Pearce tonight?" Well, what? Paul Heyman. I was waiting for Paul Heyman to come out in his tights, come out in like a one piece, So yeah, like it was set up. I'll explain what happened in a bit, but what was your takes, your thoughts on the opening segment, Shrek?
I mean, it was a great opening segment. Roman, obviously, on the mic is gold at the moment. And if you've got Heyman as your second piece, then you're not doing too bad. And I even like Adam Pearce's work and how he, he's admitting to he'll take it from Roman, but he's not going to take it from Paul. Just shows he does have some guts and some fire in the belly. They're not totally crapping on his history as a former wrestling champion himself. But, you have to also say, like, the SmackDown, a week before the Royal Rumble, and then you've got, like, Paul Heyman, a manager, fighting a backstage producer, Adam Pearce, as one of the main attractions. That's kind of a little bit off-putting for me. But if it works, it works, I guess. I guess you're going to elaborate more on that in a moment.
Yeah. Well, the next one was the Intercontinental title match between Big E and Apollo Crews. Following the opening segment, we actually had Sami Zayn come out and chain himself to like the entrance ramp and the side, and saying he wasn't going, and justice for Sami, which I thought was pretty good because of how he got caught with his hand tangled up in Apollo Crews' tights, but then Apollo Crews did the same to him. The match itself was all right, but ended in a no contest due to Sami Zayn interference. So I think we could be aiming for a triple threat at the Rumble between the three of them, which I think would be a really good match. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the
Yeah, I
Sami Zayn
loved
and
Sammy's
the match?
little occupation stint. It really builds into playing the victim card, even though he's quite, condescending and annoying himself and doing like all the things he's saying he's a victim of. But Sami Zayn, I can't believe they haven't strapped a rocket to him, because he's, all class. He's a great wrestler. He's a great entertainer all round. Yeah. And I mean, you only have to look back on his feuds with Kevin Owens and so forth that you can just see that they're sometimes missing the mark with him. But again, this current run has been quite fantastic, even though it's not in the main event scene. Big E and Apollo, I mean, I'm not really worried about how that match goes. Like, I think it needed Sammy to get involved, just because you didn't see Apollo beating Big E anyway. I'd like to see a triple threat between the three, if that's the way they're going to go. But I guess we'll have to see where it's going in the future. Yeah.
I think the triple threat is like it suits the IC belt. It suits the Intercontinental belt. Like, we've had the triple threats throughout the years. One that comes to mind, WrestleMania a couple of years ago, between the Miz, Rollins, and Finn Balor. It was a great match, and I think it should be a triple threat, certainly. My last one is then, like I said, the main event after the segment. It was not a bad sort of what came in between it. The obstacle course race between Bayley and Bianca Belair, I thought was pretty good, and Bianca Belair ended up beating her by 20 or so seconds, 17 seconds or something, whilst also lifting Otis, putting Otis on her shoulder and taking him with her, which was pretty impressive. But the main event, Adam Pearce versus Paul Heyman, on the way out, like it was telegraphed, really, all throughout the night of Roman Reigns is going home, and Paul Heyman comes out, feigns injury. He has a suitable replacement, of course, in Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, pretty quickly into the match, lands a Superman punch to Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce does get in a low blow, but the way that the booking was, it was like really that Reigns was completely superior to Adam Pearce in every way possible, until Kevin Owens came out and made the save for his bitch, Adam Pearce, as Roman Reigns called him earlier in the night. Gave Reigns, well, sort of blocked a Superman punch, ducked out of the way whilst Reigns went to give him a Superman punch, ended up going up onto the rampway around outside of the ring. Owens gave him 2 stunners, one straight away. Then officials came out to pull him apart. Owens got away and stunned him again. And to close off, Reigns was put through the announce table to close the show. So they were really pushing Owens here, giving him like his big push before the inevitable squash in the last man standing in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it was good to see actually Kevin Owens not being on the receiving end of being thrown off the stage or thrown from a great height, and actually getting one over on Reigns. It was good. It was a nice way to close out the show. Quite a good, a feel good moment for Kevin Owens fans. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I loved it, and it was so telegraphed. It was obviously going to happen that Paul Heyman wasn't going to have a match, but the way they played it out was pretty good. There's nothing greater than Kevin Owens during a beatdown or a match where he's talking throughout it. Whether he gets a microphone or whether they just close in on him and hear what he's having to say. But he did it again, saying how he's never going to give up, and he said some really great one-liners, which I can't repeat right now. But Kevin Owens, love him, KO. Who doesn't love Kevin Owens? But are they building him enough to look credible to take down Roman Reigns? And I don't even want to see it happen. As much as I love Kevin Owens, I don't want to see him beat Roman Reigns. No. I love Roman Reigns' role at the moment. Why would we want to see that come to an end? It doesn't, it doesn't need to.
No, it doesn't.
So, I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel that SmackDown was lacking in a lot of ways this week. I'm surprised you didn't bring up the hottest act at the moment, Reginald the Sommelier. I don't know. Let's look at this. Some of the guys wrestling this week were a sommelier and a manager and a backstage producer. What's going on? And why you still got Titus O'Neil backstage and catering, and he hasn't had a match in 5 years? It just baffles me. And then you wonder why people get upset when they move on to greener pastures like AEW. Of course they're going to be pissed off because they're playing second fiddle to a sommelier.
It did feel very. Some of the matches felt very ad hoc based and sort of they were booked on the fly. Again, like we spoke about last week, and COVID infections, maybe there are more than they're letting on to us, which doesn't bode well for the Royal Rumble that's next week. So,
right. Well, I'm still looking forward to it, Luke, and we're going to find some special way to celebrate that one. Whether it's live or delayed, we'll have some kind of viewing of it for sure. Okay, well, that ends the takeaway segments for the week. And now we'll move on to one of our favorite segments, which is the WrestleBeards Top 3. Now, earlier this week, I heard some rumblings of people being asked about whether they'd like to be in the Hall of Fame. I heard Undertaker asked in an interview. I heard X-Pac asked if he'd like to be a 3-time Hall of Famer, considering he's currently in there for DX and about to go in for NWO. And would he deserve a individual induction, which I do think
make some noise.
But it made me start to think, who are the unsung heroes of the wrestling world who have never had that nod so far? Who are the ones missing from the WWE Hall of Fame? And there's obviously some big names that are, that are not in there yet. But I get that they don't want to rush and put everyone in a huff, because then 10 years from now, you're going to be inducting Hornswoggle because you've run out of people. So, so I thought we'll count down our top 3 missing names from the Hall of Fame. How about you kick us off with your number 3 pick, Luke?
Well, you mentioned the Undertaker, and the Undertaker is a missing one. But I haven't added it to the list. I've kind of changed mind, because I think the Undertaker's going in. I think the Undertaker, he had his retirement, 30 years. I think he's going to be the main event attraction for the Hall of Fame this year. The one name that, well, other than my other two, but I doubt we'll ever see in the Hall of Fame, because he won't allow himself to go in there, is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He is the brain, the mind behind professional wrestling. As the bad boss in the Attitude Era, to the kiss my ass club in the PG era, to now just the guy who sits in gorilla position at the back. He is there for every show, for Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, and he has been for the last 35 years. He won't ever allow himself to go in there. The DX a couple of years ago made a point of how Vince McMahon doesn't like his name even being dropped into Hall of Fame speeches, because it's all about that person. It's not about him. I think the only time he'll go in there is when once he's dead, once he's died. But yeah, Vince McMahon.
You missed an opportunity there, Luke. What are the chances of him going in the Hall of Fame?
No chance.
No chance in hell. Vince definitely. I mean, I do think he'll be in there. Whether might take his death for him to get in there one day, but for sure, Vince is WWE. There's no WWE without him. His father obviously was the original Vince in charge, but it wasn't a global phenomenon until he got involved. Okay, well, great start there. My number 3 pick, actually, funny enough, is in the Hall of Fame in some capacity, but not in the capacity that I'd like to see her, and that's Chyna. Chyna just was such a superstar when she first broke the mold for the women's wrestler in WWE in the Attitude Era. She was part of DX. She was Hunter Hearst Helmsley's girlfriend, and she was the muscle of DX at a time where women were treated quite inferior in the company as sex symbols and jokes, and she was a force to be reckoned with. She obviously went on to, well, my first memory of her big storyline was actually when she went through a tournament, and I think it was like a sort of a corporate rumble where she won, and she was going to go on to potentially face Steve Austin for the title, the WWE title at the time, which was like, what? This is shocking. They obviously found a way out of that, because at the time they weren't wanting to push a woman against a man at such a level. Maybe down the line that will happen. But so that was the start of big things for Chyna. She then went on to have an intercontinental feud with Chris Jericho, where at one point she was a co-champion with Jericho, which was quite, amusing. And I know Jericho is one of his most hated things of his career, actually. He didn't
it is.
it, but I actually liked it. I think she also had a solo run as the women's champion for a stage. So she went sort of to try and elevate that division. And then she was also one of the pioneers for the collaboration between Playboy magazine and WWE, which, they like that crossover involvement. And Playboy obviously is a cult, icon in the pop culture world, with Hugh Hefner's empire there. And then she went kind of downhill and, got into, pornography and drugs and, X-Pac, all the worst things in life. And she was kind of shunned from the wrestling world for a good part. And then unfortunately died of a drug overdose years later. They've started to come around to her, and they have started mentioning her, and they gave her a part induction with DX a few years ago. But I do think she's worthy of her own induction, and her own family and friends having their chance to have her moment in the spotlight. What do you think about Chyna?
Yeah, it's a really good one. Obviously, she was outcast when when Triple H started dating Stephanie McMahon, and she was sort of kind of kicked to the curb. It was a real tragic life that she was living. I've seen like some videos. She was on. I can't remember his name. I've seen a few of those ones as well. But no, just a couple of YouTube things like of her and just talking about the WWE. She was so bitter about it, about how she was treated, and rightly so, because she was huge. She was like when I was growing up watching wrestling, she was one of the biggest stars there, just because she was so different. First female to ever enter the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah. And get an elimination, I believe, as well.
And get an elimination. It was just a really sort of sad end to her life, and she needs to be inducted into the Hall of Fame to recognise what she did for the company and what she did for female wrestling.
For sure. Well, they're only our number 3 picks. Luke, how about you kick us off with your number 2 pick for a missing addition to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and it's a name that gets mentioned quite often by you and I. He's now in AEW. He will be in the Hall of Fame one day. He's got a lot of respect at the WWE still, but it's Chris Jericho. I would induct Chris Jericho into the Hall of Fame just for his his debut, like that debut when it comes out and he's there like that. I would induct him to the Hall of Fame for that. But being the first holder, undisputed champion, beating both Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night, was pretty big. The stuff, he just reinvents himself, and I would love to see him back in the company for one more run. I don't think we ever will, but I would love to see him back there again. He just reinvents himself, the drink it in character, to you're on the list character, and now a little bit of bubbly. The character at AEW. He is wrestling. Chris Jericho is wrestling, and it needs to be in the Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I'm quite gutted you've actually chosen Chris Jericho, because he's obviously my favorite wrestler, and I love Chris Jericho. But, I do think he will actually even be part of WWE again someday, in some capacity. I do think it will happen. I don't think it needs to happen, but I think it will. And no doubt he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He's very well respected in the wrestling community, and he's been involved in so many companies. He was in WCW, ECW, New Japan, and now AEW. He's had a finger in a lot of pies. He also did some work in Mexico. No doubt. I mean, he's a superstar, and not only in the world of wrestling. Like, I mean, if Snoop Dogg can get into the Hall of Fame based on one theme song, I mean, look at Fozzie's involvement and the amount of songs they've given to the wrestling world. So, I mean, there's so many things. But yeah, definite agreement there. Well, my number 2 addition, I mean, kind of in the same vein as Chris Jericho, a little bit underappreciated in his latter parts of his career in WWE. And then he's gone over to AEW, where he's carved a little bit of a recreation of his character. And that is Goldust, who is now known in AEW as Dustin Rhodes, son of a plumber, Dustin Rhodes, son of a plumber, Dusty Rhodes, bit of a tongue twister there, and brother of Cody. Goldust had a hell of a career in the WWE. Came in, I believe he had a stint in WCW prior, where he was just playing off of being his father's son. But when he came into WWE, Vince wanted to do something with him a little bit different. Obviously, maybe trying to, give some disrespect to Dusty in the process. And he gave Dustin this androgynous, sexualized character covered in gold and addicted to the limelight and the spotlight in Hollywood. And at first he was a heel, and he had some magnificent matches with Rowdy Roddy Piper. I believe I remember when they fought on the back of a truck, and they had like a hay bale match. And also there was like some great matches in like the ranks of the Intercontinental picture with the Godfather, with Val Venus, and during the Attitude Era, Goldust was just something special. And he had Terry Runnels at his side, who I believe was actually his real life wife, Marlena, as they knew her at that point in her career. And, you know, he's just something different. He was never going to be the world champion, but he was always credible and, you know, a great wrestler. And, you know, even in the latter parts of his career when he teamed up with Stardust, you know, Cody Rhodes' alter ego, they had some gold there. And, of course, his memorable tag team with Booker T was, you know, just amazing, actually, and really, really funny. So, yeah, Goldust, I think, will be in there one day. How do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think he will be in there. Obviously, well, not obviously, but my memory of Goldust is when he used to come out with long gold hair. He was with Luna Vachon before, I think, Terry Runnels. I remember that. And they were just like a horrible duo, quite scary, quite creepy. And the Shattered Dreams, his finisher. What a finisher that was. Like, it was, and it's just such a heelish finisher as well, like a blatant low blow for a finisher. It was good. And you're right, like, he's a great wrestler, comes from a great like wrestling lineage. So yeah, he will be in there one day. Hopefully Cody will be in there too one day as well.
We'll see about that. After he hit that sledgehammer into that throne, you just never know. Okay, well, we're on to our number one picks, and I've had a sneak peek of who you've chosen, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, I took this from the documentaries that you said about watching in homework a couple of weeks ago, and I watched the Owen Hart one again. So my pick is Owen Hart, and he never will be in the Hall of, or he not never will be, but he currently is not going to be going into the Hall of Fame. Relations between the company WWE and Owen Hart's widow and family is they're very, very strained relations, in that well, the death around Owen Hart, the fact that they continued the Overedge pay-per-view in 1999 after he had died in that ring, the way it was all dealt with and handled, the fact that she was paid off like silence money of something like 18 million USD by the WWE, and just how it was all dealt with. I don't think he ever will go into the Hall of Fame, but someone that is deserving of it, given his character at the time, the way that he, like, as a wrestler, he was someone that didn't fit the mold of the Attitude Era, because he wasn't such a great character, but he was a brilliant wrestler, quite like his brother Brett as well, and as a way, like an olive branch from the company to his family inducting into the Hall of Fame would be is something that they should do. That, as I said, the family won't allow. But I've been reading about it. Apparently, things are getting better between the two. There was a DVD released by the WWE recently about Owen Hart and the life and work of Owen Hart, which obviously the family had to sign off on. So hopefully that's a step in the right direction, that one day he will, rightly so, be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very sad story, and you know, I can understand his family not wanting to have the WWE make money off of the tragedy, essentially.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't have an induction without reminiscing about those darker times. So it will be interesting to see if it ever happens. I don't. I'll always remember, you know, that moment when Jim Ross went silent and they had to announce that live. And I mean, I didn't watch it live, but I watched it, and it was horrible. And you know, I've since gone back and watched a lot of his career, and you know, and it was he was a real superstar that could have broken out and become even bigger had he have slipped on, which was quite a shame.
Like, can you imagine the stuff he would have done with Chris Jericho and Benoit and Eddie Guerrero when they came over. That was they came over in 2000.
That's right.
Like,
well, I love the
he would have
stuff
had
he
some
did with
fantastic
Jeff
matches.
Jarrett. I thought that was great. And Mark Henry, he had some good stuff with him. And then also his time in the Nation of Domination was great. As the only white boy in there, which was, the blue chipper. And then he was the blue blazer. It was very sad. So a nice one there is your number one. Well, I'll get on to my number one. Can you smell who I might be going to induct?
I can smell what you're cooking.
If you smell, of course, it's The Rock. The Rock. How can he not be in the WWE Hall of Fame already? Yeah. I mean, it's actually quite shocking considering.
It is a surprise. When I saw it on the list, I was like, what?
Austin and him were the two biggest draws of the Attitude Era and the early 2000s. And Austin went in like 10 years ago into the Hall of Fame. The Rock, still hasn't. I know that Hulk Hogan is one of those guys who bridged the gap between Hollywood and the WWE initially, but I don't think there's been any bigger star than The Rock who has come out of the WWE and made a name for himself, where he's given so much positive limelight and spotlight to the WWE, but at the same time carved his own path. The Rock is, I think, still one of the biggest money-making actors in Hollywood. I think he won that accolade last year. I mean, and he pumps out some good movies as well. Plus, he's got endeavors in tequila and TV shows and all these other things. He's got a new show coming out soon called Young Rock, which is going to be about his life as growing up in the wrestling industry. But beyond that, I mean, his career was like no other. Like, he came in as like someone that everyone hated, Die Rocky Die, and he turned into the superstar that everyone loved. And there's not a person on this earth who would say that they hate The Rock. Like, how do you hate The Rock? He's just a polarizing figure. He does so much good stuff for the world, brings so many smiles to faces. He could never be a heel again in the company, I don't think, because he's just so popular. We may see him come back for a feud in the future with his cousin Roman Reigns. Potentially that could lead to the Hall of Fame nod. Who knows? But what do you think about The Rock going in?
Yeah, well, like as I said, I when I saw on the list that we share, The Rock is number one. I was surprised. Like, for some reason, I had in my head that he was. But then I do know that they don't like having active wrestlers in the Hall of Fame. They don't like bringing them into the Hall of Fame.
Goldberg.
But which again, like, he's never really hung up his boots, has he? Like Shawn Michaels did, Stone Cold did. So he will be coming in. And you're right, like in the Attitude Era, it was him, it was Stone Cold and The Rock, and like one of my fondest memories is when he won the Royal Rumble in 2000 in Madison Square Garden, and having said that he was going to win it, and then the following year at WrestleMania 17 in Dallas, I think it was, in Texas. Him versus Stone Cold, like it was an era-defining match. The build-up was phenomenal, and he's been great. Obviously, he returned. Like, that was him off to Hollywood, and then he returned. He won the title again from CM Punk, and fought John Cena twice, and like it was the match with the year-long build-up. It was announced
lifetime.
It was announced that they were fighting at the next WrestleMania, and so they had a year of building it up. Obviously, he comes back and does like the host of WrestleMania, and he comes back and does little bits, endorses his cousin Roman Reigns in the 2015 Royal Rumble, where they both got booed out of the building. And I think they may be angling for him to return. I can't remember where is one of the WrestleManias that announced that one of them going to be in Miami by any chance? I think.
No, I think the next one was New Orleans after
Right. Okay. Oh, there was an LA one, wasn't there?
yeah, Hollywood.
Yeah, the Rams Sofitel Stadium. Yeah, so potentially he could be at the Hollywood one.
You know who I'd want to
in.
see him face as well? In that Hollywood one, when we're booking 3 years in the future, I'd love to see him fight John Cena again. I'd love to see that.
I would.
Rock John Cena 3. Like, who wouldn't want to see that? That would be amazing.
No, that would be good. That would be very good. Yeah. So yeah, the Rock's a great one. And he is the great one. So
nice one there, Luke. Okay, well, another great segment this week, and we look forward to seeing the Hall of Fame coming up shortly. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it in modified capacity. They obviously didn't get to do last year's one, and they still, I think, are holding out to even give them their live showing and their live induction. So, I don't know, potentially, are they going to name new Hall of Famers for this year, or are they just going to have last year's ones get inducted at this year's ceremony? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. No, there hasn't really been much announcement of it, has there? It usually comes after the Rumble, and lead up to WrestleMania.
All soon enough. Okay, well, that leaves our WrestleBeards top 3 segment for the week. And now we'll move into another favorite segment, which is the homework, where we offer up a wrestling-based book, movie, television series, or otherwise, and it can have a tenuous link. It doesn't have to be directly about wrestling, but it's something you can go away and study up on and watch while you're waiting for the next podcast. So, Luke, what's your offering for this week?
So, my one is on the WWE Network at the moment. I'm a subscriber to the network, but they have got all previous Royal Rumbles free to watch on the Rumble. So you don't have to be a subscriber. You don't have to be paying your $10 a month or whatever it is. But they have a special one, the Attitude Era Royal Rumbles, which I watched, and it's only around about this time. I always go back and watch old Royal Rumbles. I'll probably watch one this afternoon after doing this, and which obviously my girlfriend loves. She loves me watching all old Royal Rumbles. She actually, in fact, asks when we're going to be watching them. So yeah, the Attitude Era Royal Rumbles on the WWE Network. It has 97, 98, 99, and 2000. And you don't have to skip through all the other matches. It's just the Royal Rumble matches. This is the one where, well, I won't tell you the winners, but Stone Cold and Vince McMahon start at number 1 and 2 in one of them. One of them is one in Madison Square Garden, which was a really good Royal Rumble. One of them is where Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack all enter the Royal Rumble at different stages. So yeah, go and check it out. Get yourself in the mood for Royal Rumble that's coming up in a week's time.
I definitely will, and I'm not a subscriber to the network because I'm a cheap ass. But good to know I can go and watch the free ones. So that's good to hear. Okay, well, my offering this week is quite random actually, because it was to not be expected. And mine is the Joe Rogan Experience podcast featuring The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, which went live this week sometime. I'm not sure what day, but he brings out a new podcast every 5 minutes. So he's probably done another one with Undertaker already while I'm speaking. But it was podcast 1598. Joe Rogan is one of my favorite podcasters. I know you like him too, Luke. He gets controversial figures of all aspects of the world. He has conspiracy theorists, he has politicians, he has anarchists, he has UFC fighters. But I don't think he's ever had a WWE superstar on, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think he has.
So Undertaker, again, is not a guy who normally does interviews or podcasts or the like. I only know of him to do the one with Stone Cold. So to do something outside of the WWE was quite shocking. Joe Rogan doesn't hold back as well, and he's hard hitting. He asks all the questions that people probably are too afraid to ask some of his guests, and Undertaker's like no other. So I'll go through some of the points that I heard raised. I don't know. Have you heard it, Luke, already?
Yeah, I haven't heard all of it, but yeah, I listened to it Wednesday or Thursday whilst I was working.
Great listen, great watch. I always like to watch those podcasts as
Yeah,
well.
I do.
I guess we've followed in that footstep of having something to view while you're listening. But anyway, it talked about his injuries and his consequential surgeries from said injuries. I didn't realize, the level of surgeries he actually had. Obviously, both hips had replacements. Shout out to Darren Spence. Eye sockets had been damaged, which was quite resounding to hear. One of them by Rey Mysterio. His shoulder had been all but damaged, and just the fact that even this had actually even started to happen prior to his WWE debut. His hips had started to give out then. Just shows that the fact he was in the company for 30 odd years is resounding. Talked about how he broke into the business, and the Undertaker spoke of how he sat in the offices of I think it was World Class Championship Wrestling. Every Tuesday he knew the executives would come in, so he waited in that office for 8 months in a row of Tuesdays, and was ignored for 8 months in a row until Fritz von Erich, the patriarch of the von Erich family, which is a major wrestling family, and they're like the McMahons of that area, of that territory. He gave him a shot because Undertaker looked like his son who'd passed away. So that was how he broke into the industry, and it was something I never heard before.
No.
He talked about drugs and their involvement in wrestling, and how he didn't not say that he wasn't into drugs and steroids in the past, and he basically shat on Braun Strowman and talked about how he couldn't believe Braun wouldn't be on steroids in this current climate, which I was astounded that he even mentioned.
Yeah, I was.
He talked about kayfabe and how he remained in character for all those years because he was a loyal servant to the character and to the company. He talked about his initial meeting with Vince at his house, and his going on to debut at the Survivor Series in 1990, and how he was fearful that he was going to be inside that egg that the gobbledygook came out of. He thought he was going to be called the Eggman, and they were going to shave him bald and shave his eyebrows off. Imagine if that. That would have been interesting. He talked about his life after WWE and how he wanted to get into hunting. Joe Rogan actually suggested Undertaker Outdoors would be a good name for a TV show, hunting show. And obviously, Joe Rogan's a big hunter himself, likes to do archery hunting. So they had a few yarns about that. One of the interesting things he talked about was the crossover stars who went into UFC, which is obviously Rogan's domain. And they talked about CM Punk, and Undertaker crapped all over him and said how, he should have stuck with the company. He was one of the biggest names, and he was too old for UFC at that point. So why would he even try? Which was interesting. But he also gave massive props to Lesnar and his crossover, and how he's just a beast, which is no pun intended. So overall, it was an awesome listen to. It was over, as all of Joe Rogan's
3 hours,
nearly 3 hours long, and just something so different. Like you never hear Undertaker, spoken out when he's not under sort of Vince McMahon's editing, and I don't think we've ever heard it. So definitely go and listen to that one. Well, another couple of great offerings there, Luke, and we're heading into Royal Rumble season next week, and as we like to do at every podcast, who are your top picks at the moment? 1 week out, we're obviously going to have our picks video next week, but who are our number one picks for the men and women's winners? How about you lead?
So I changed it to Nakamura, and then Nakamura is nowhere to be seen on today's SmackDown. Nor was Daniel Bryan, but I'm going back with Daniel Bryan. I've changed. I've gone back to my first pick of Daniel Bryan, and for the women, I said Charlotte Flair last week. I don't know why I said Charlotte Flair, because the name the person I had in my head, but I just said Charlotte Flair, was Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea Ripley might do it and be the first NXT woman to win the Rumble. I meant to say Charlotte Flair, and when I was going back and I go back and I watched these, when I was leading up to it, I was like, yeah, this is where I mentioned Rhea Ripley, and I said Charlotte Flair, and I was like, oh. So yeah, I meant to say Rhea Ripley. I don't know what was going on. I was having a sort of brain fart.
Well,
yeah,
great ideas. I mean, you're a bit floppy with that Daniel Bryan, but we'll see. Well, my pick I'm going to keep, and that's Seth Rollins for the men's winner. I still think like they're not talking about him. He's not being mentioned on the television at the moment. He's got no reason to not return the Rumble, and it would be he's been off long enough that would be quite a surprise. They could bring him back as a face. You know, there's no reason why they couldn't switch him over. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But I just think that, he's a main eventer and they need a little bit more star power. Plus, that story writes itself if he gets back into a feud with Roman Reigns.
It does, yeah.
The old Shield guys, battling it out. And I think they could put on a barnstormer. So that's my men's pick. My women's one, I had Bianca Belair for the last couple of weeks, but I'm actually going to switch that one up, and I'm going to go with Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa Bliss could win the Women's Rumble. I've thought about it, and she, probably Bianca and Bayley are going to go on to do things at WrestleMania in their own feud. I do think that Alexa, it was kind of weird. I don't think she needs to win the Rumble, but why is she in the Rumble? That made no sense to me. She's already in this entangled feud with Randy Orton and The Fiend, but then they announced her for the Rumble this week. Now, it could be because there isn't 30 women on the roster and they need her in there. But I just think that if she won it, could bring about some interesting things. What if she gave her title opportunity to The Fiend or something? Who knows? Maybe she's The Fiend incarnate and she battles Roman Reigns and Alexa Bliss is the new Universal Champion. Who knows? But I do think it's ridiculous. But, I do think that she's going to win it. So there we go. Two outside picks, but I do feel strongly about those. However, who I want to pick is not who I think will win.
Okay, yep.
That's who I think will win, but who I want to win is still Daniel Bryan. How about that?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so we're a week to go until the Rumble. Next week, we're obviously going to have our picks for the Rumble, and we'll go through closer to that time how we're going to go about that. I've got another podcast coming up this week. We've got the return of Cam, who was a guest earlier in our creation last year. And we talked a little bit about our days of growing up and learning about wrestling. And we've got another friend of ours joining the call, Mark, who was part of our earlier days feud. So that should be an interesting little discussion. And we've also got, obviously, our regular podcast coming up next week, where we will have to finally, not wait any longer because the Rumble is nigh.
Yes.
I do think that Luke, I haven't really talked to you about this, but if we don't get 100 subscribers, which we could, but if we don't, I think we should delay watching it until we can together, and we'll do some kind of live reactions video, just if not of anything, just for our own personal indulgence. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, obviously we'll both be working, both be teaching Monday morning on the 1st of Feb. So yeah, let's. I finish work around 3 p.m. Jakarta time. That's 4 p.m. KL time. So yeah, let's try and sit down together.
It's a public holiday in Malaysia.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
but we'll figure it out. We'll come up with something. And I just look forward to it. It's our little baby. It's what we've been waiting for. So with that, I think we'll sign off. It's been a great podcast, and thanks to all for listening, especially you, Corey. talking to you. And Giles. That's right.
Yeah.
You're out there. We'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.